Hey, everyone. Looks like you got John tonight. And I think Derek's trying to join us. He's having a little bit of technical difficulty behind the scenes here.
Yes, John, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I've got my microphone, but I don't appear to have any camera tonight.
Well, that's probably a relief to those people out there. Oops, looks like Derek dropped again. Let me see what I can do here with the buttons. Are you back?
I think I'm back. How's it going, John?
I've got you really quiet. Maybe a listener will comment whether or not you really are quiet to the real world.
Hey, Jason, seeing you're out there, let us know if you can hear me or not.
Of course, Jason. I always use Chrome.
I am on Google Chrome as well.
You might not have the latest update.
You know, it did this to me last week where it didn't want to find my camera, and I just kind of restarted my computer. But seeing we were pushing it so late tonight, I wasn't able to.
I know we're a car podcast, but that's what Bill Gates designed. When it breaks, you just turn it off and turn it on. Exactly. Hang on just a second. Derek, entertain him.
Okay. What am I supposed to entertain him for? Why? I have no idea. Well, hopefully everybody's having a good week. John just got a text message. Very important.
Oh, the dog just got a bath, and the dog was trying to make her objections noted.
Ah, yes.
So, Derek, if we go by, let's see here. We're going to have a great topic tonight, kind of something we can debate a little bit, because nobody knows what the answer is. What is an American car?
We all know what the answer is, John. Everybody knows the answer to all things.
Well, according to all my information, the only American cars out there are really Teslas.
That's probably right. That's probably right. I was trying to think if I was trying to think if Rivian would count or not.
Well, I guess there is Rivian out there now, but
yeah,
they don't count.
Why don't they count?
I don't know. Because they won't come on the show. Here I am, lived in Bloomington Normal for years, lived just down the street for decades, and no, they won't call me back.
Well, that might actually change, John.
Rivian, I'm talking to you.
That might change. I have some contacts, and one of those contacts.
I've got a couple of people got the trucks in order. I know a couple of people that have the trucks, and I know a couple of people that are really waiting for the SUV.
And I know someone who works there.
Yeah. And a lot of good that's done us.
We are working on the details of how to get him on the show. So what do you think of that, John? And the reason you don't know that is because we just talked about it just like a day or two ago, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you.
Oh, okay.
Because you never answer my text messages, John.
Yeah, your non-existent text messages until like 2 minutes before the show?
Yeah, those.
Oh, I don't suppose you had a chance to listen to former guest Tony Watley's podcast this week, did you?
I actually listened to it on the way to work this morning, John.
I have reached out to Tony, trying to get him on the show. It was weird. I'm driving along yesterday morning, and Tony and I have been talking about getting him back on the show, and I finally clicked on how I want to bring him back and what angle, and promising him we won't try to get an hour worth of free business advice out of him because his time's freaking expensive.
Exactly.
And I came up with that idea, and then like 2 hours later, his podcast downloaded, and I had to listen to it right away. I thought it was a phenomenal podcast. So in my email to him the other night, maybe it was 2 days ago, that It was 2 days ago that I listened to it. I've requested permission to see if we can actually play that podcast as part of our feed one night.
So. Oh, very nice. Well, and I'd like to get him back on, because if you haven't heard the podcast, the Tony's 365 driven episode number 170, I believe it was, about cars and business and things like that. It's very interesting, as John says. But I would love to get him on the show, even if it was like the episode after we, play that or even snippets of his episode. Because, of course, Tony likes, Tony, it's a one-man show, so there's not a lot of discussion. It's just kind of Tony giving his advice, which is often fantastic advice. But, he talks a lot about performance cars because that's the genre or the, era that he is, or the particular style of car that he is most interested in. So I think it would be a little bit of fun to have him on the show and, banter back and forth a little bit about, our interests with him in the car world. So, antique cars, which I know he doesn't know a lot about, but, kind of bouncing that, okay, these are, what he talks about with performance cars and how to buy those. Well, how do we apply or look at that at the antique level? John, your whole, mini truck world that we know you love so much.
I'm working on a couple of mini truck experts too. So I've got a lot of emails out. Like I promised, I got a lot of emails out about interviews. Tony's actually been on twice, episode 70, where we talk about his book, Side Hustle Millionaire. And we had him on 129, where unfortunately, and I really hate it, we got way off track. And I say, and I've told him, I felt like we abused him for business information. And that will not happen again, because I want to have him on to get his take on performance. Tony owns DV8 Motoring, which is a aftermarket company providing a lot of wheels and high-end items for the aftermarket. He doesn't do anything knockoff in that, and he's got a solid take on it. Tony's original business that he made a big chunk of his money on. He came from the oil industry, but he made a big chunk of his money with the LS1 Tech Forum and sold that for multiple seven figures. And that was kind of his role, or that's what got him rolling. And he understands performance. And I want to know, every car can go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds now, effectively. So two seconds isn't a big deal. 11-second quarter miles aren't a big deal, or are they? And I would just want, Derek and I's feeling on this, and you kind of know Will's feeling on this. I want to bring an outsider in who actually sells parts to this industry and see how he feels. And I really want to reach out to a couple of these. There's a company out there that performance tunes Teslas. Actually, there's a couple of them, but some of the oldest, and now they're beginning to get into Rivian and things like that. So I just wanted to say, if you haven't listened to Tony Watley's podcast, go check it out. 365 Driven. And he really, we're trying to get him on the show to talk about that. And Derek and I will give you a full analysis on another show if we can get permission to play his show on what we think about it. And Derek's having potato chips right now.
No, actually, that was just ice sloshing.
Oh,
I needed a good cold glass of ice water tonight, John.
Oh, Randy Pierce is suggesting John Barefoot. I'll have to check him out on that one. Tony did say something. This is, I found humorous, and I'm going, come on, Tony, you're kind of pulling our chain here. He was talking early on in his podcast about his driving ability and that he could lap a lot of tracks faster in his pickup truck than some people can in their sports cars. You know what kind of pickup truck Tony has there, Derek?
Oh yeah, he's got the new Ram. What is it? The TRX? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's only got the Hellcat Ram, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like he's doing it in a 77 Ford F-150 Custom. But he probably still could lap faster than some people in their sports cars in one of those.
Oh, exactly.
But what's your bitch of the week, Derek?
Oh, that's a great question, John. As I say every week, can it just be people? Because some people just suck. But
People are people. How can it be?
Yeah,
you and
exactly,
I get along
right?
so awfully.
Yeah.
No, Randy, we're not going to make SEMA this year. Will's going to be there. I'm not making SEMA. I don't think Derek is.
No.
I just realized recently that I need to get out and rejoin the freaking world. That COVID thing slid through, and I just haven't started to get out and doing a lot of stuff.
I think we all got so complacent in the routine of, if we still had to go to the office, come home, don't do anything else. Go to the office, come home, don't do anything else. And yeah, I've been thinking about that for like the last week.
You at least got out, went to Old Car Festival, and the Detroit Concours. Hell, it's been.
Yeah,
I haven't even made it to the Saturday morning, Cars and Coffee locally in a while, and I keep meaning to, and might make it this Saturday. I don't know. Got to get out there and start just getting out in the world. So.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really have a bitch other than people?
Well, I was going to, complain about all these people that just aren't going out and doing stuff, and they're just staying in their house, and they're just hung up on COVID. But, I don't want to ruin the mood for the evening. So.
Well, that's kind of, like I say, I like sitting here, and if you knew my list of things to do.
Actually, I do. I do have a gripe of the week. It's something I've griped about long ago on the show, because I remember it, because I got all worked up over a video that Haggerty put out. But at the Detroit Concours, I heard it again, and it bothers me because I feel that it is a common, what's the word I'm looking for here? Stereotype that has been associated with museums, specifically automotive museums, for way too long. And it's a, in my opinion, selfish take on museums, which is, I overheard someone at the Concours saying that, isn't it great that these cars are in private hands, and they get to get out and be seen by the general public, unlike if they were locked away in a museum. And that is that is the exact opposite purpose of museums. Museums are 501c3 nonprofit public institutions. They are known as public trusts. They are there. The vehicles are on exhibit most of the time for the public to come in and see and enjoy. And even if they're in storage, you can send in requests to museums to be able to see the vehicles in storage. Most museums will grant that. It might take a little work to schedule it and do those things, but we make them accessible. Private collectors take their cars out to shows once in a while, and the rest of the time they're locked up in their private collection, and only their buddies get to go in and see them. It just drives me crazy when I hear
I was talking with, or I was on, what's his name? What's Harley Earl's son that's on Facebook?
It's his grandson.
Number
one. Let's make sure we get that right. It's his grandson, and that's Richard Earl.
Yeah, and he was on there, and he posted something about the Buick or the Oldsmobile that sold a couple of years ago for a couple $1,000,000.
The Olds F88.
Yeah. And I had made a comment that I thought I had seen that car at a Concours back in 04, 05, right about the time it sold. And, right next to it, an HHR got crushed by a tree when a storm came through. Well, I went through and actually dug through my pictures, and it wasn't that. It was a Buick very similar to it. And I'm trying to think. Do we know where that Oldsmobile really is?
Yes.
I think it's in a museum on display. Is it?
It's at the museum in Colorado at the big resort. And I'm completely
that museum went broke and shut down.
Oh, then how long ago? I'm wondering if they're planning to auction it off.
I don't know. It was brought up in the comments at that museum. Somebody said, "Oh, that's where it's on display," and somebody had commented that has been closed and was in receivership.
Then it will wind up going to auction again.
And probably end up in private hands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Hendrick's car collection, and the only people I know that ever get in there is the local Corvette club on their yearly tour, and you can't go with them unless you have a Corvette. So I guess it's available for you if you've got $50,000, give or take, for a Corvette. So,
or you go out buy a C4 for like $5,000 and just tag on, maybe.
You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Put it on your trailer. Take it behind your TRX.
You didn't have to. Yeah, you don't have to drive it in. You just got to show up with it.
Well, if it's like the British Car Club, when you go on drives, you have the MG in the garage and you show up in your Mercedes SUV to go on the drives. What makes a car American?
Absolutely nothing. That's the stance I'm gonna take tonight, John. Absolutely nothing.
Is it?
Because I got to thinking about this leading up to tonight. And I know there's all the people that are going to sit back and be like, oh, well, it's got to be a Chevy or a Ford, and it's got to be built here in America. And they're the only American car companies there are. And blah, 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 blah. But if you really want to think about it, and yes, there have been a lot of automobile manufacturers from very early on that pretty much everything was made here in America. Same thing over in Europe and everything. They were getting all their raw materials in. But it was as early as the 1910s that Ford Motor Company globalized and had production facilities almost all around the world. It was really at that point that no car, Mercedes was importing cars to the U.S. for the wealthy. American car companies were literally ripping off the Mercedes design, famously the American Simplex. They were just copying the Mercedes Simplex. And I really got to thinking about it. If you really want to get picky, it's been since the earliest days of the automobile that things have really been global and shared globally. And, everything is in some way, copied or, designed off something else.
People talk to me about it all the time, and they say it doesn't matter where the car's made. Your Chevy pickup that was made in Mexico, it's still an American car because the money goes back to Detroit. But is that a Toyota pickup or a Tundra? 100% of the production's made in Texas, but that's a Japanese car because the money goes back to Japan. And roughly, I'm seeing if I can actually find Toyota's number. Toyota profits roughly are an average 7.29% when they sell a vehicle. So if they sell a $50,000 truck, we'll round there $4,000 roughly. $3,500 to $4,000 goes back to Japan. That other money goes to buy parts for the truck, to pay labor. And a lot of those parts are made and sourced from local factories and that. To me, that's just because 7% of the money goes back to Japan, 93% of the money is staying in the United States, to give or take where some of the parts come from. And that's what matters. When you take General Motors, and I lost their number. I got Ford and GM. Where did GM or Ford and Chrysler or Stellantis? General Motors profits 4.66% per car they sell. So, but the money stays in Mexico. 95% of their money stays in Mexico. And if we figure half the money's labor, I think where the labor dollars go really, to me, defines what an American car is, because that's what impacts the economy. That's what impacts the towns in this, the United States, the tax dollars, the spending. If we're sending, to just use $10,000 as a rough figure, if we're sending $9,500 to Mexico and say $4,750 of its parts and $4,750 of its labor, $4,750 of it's still going to Mexico and not staying here.
Mm-hmm.
Where Toyota, on the other hand, we're sending, a couple $1,000 back to Toyota, but a big chunk of it stays here. And that's kind of how I personally define an American car.
Yeah, and if you go and look at, I'm pulling up cars.com right now, but most of the lists are pretty much the same. But you look at what most people rank as the top 10 most American-made vehicles. So that's, built in America using as many American parts as possible, right?
Yeah, their methodology is location of final assembly, percentage of U.S. and Canadian parts, country of origin for available engines, country of origin for available transmissions, and U.S. manufacturing employees relative to the automaker's footprint.
Yeah, and in that top 10, you've got five American spots, a total of 4 companies. You've got the Tesla Model 3, the Ford Mustang, the Tesla Model Y, the Jeep Cherokee, the Chevrolet Corvette, and then the next 5, 4 of which, 6 through 9, are Honda cars, and number 10 is the Toyota Tundra that you just brought up.
Now, my list from cars.com is a little bit different. In the top 10, there's 4 Teslas, 1 Lincoln, 3 Hondas, 4 Hondas, and 1 Jeep. The Corvette, they say, came in at number 11 on my list from cars.com. But the funny thing is, if we go back to my numbers, Tesla profits negative 11.27% per car. So I don't know how you classify that one as.
Well, again, it's, it's not, in that case, it's not about the money necessarily, but it's about the location and parts that are used, right? So there's another part of this question. What makes an American car? Is it the location of build and the amount of North American made parts? Or is it about where the money goes? Yeah, because technically, yes. So being built in America and having the parts from North America, a lot of the money goes to American and North American companies. But with, like you're saying, if it's Toyota and some of that money is going back to Japan, does that knock it? Which way do you look at it? Do you look at all the money? Do you look at just how many of the parts and the location? Yeah, what? That's the question. What defines that it's an American car?
We can make it really easy. Ferrari, Mazda, McLaren, and Tata Motors, which is Jaguar and Land Rover, 0% of their production is American.
They are not American cars.
But
now, what about Jaguar when Ford had controlling interest in it?
Well, Ford, as of the 2022 model year, 70.8% of their cars are defined as American made. And that's including everything from like Ford and Lincoln.
Cars.
Huh?
That's because they have like 3 cars, the F-150, the Mustang, and
the F-150, the Mustang, the Maverick, and the Ranger.
Oh, you forgot the Mach-E.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Stellantis, which is Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Jeep, Maserati, and Ram, 72.3% of their production is U.S. Really says a lot about those Alfa Romeo and Fiat parts and Maserati parts of the company, I think. I think that number is going to change, though, because one of the new Chryslers is actually a rebranded Alfa Romeo. And the rebranded Alfa Romeo is actually, the Maserati is actually a rebranded Alfa Romeo too, one of the Maseratis.
Oh, messing with Maserati, are we?
Tesla is 100%. They're number 1. Stellantis is number 2. Ford's number 3. 69.4% of this company's sales are U.S. Can you guess what company I'm talking about?
General Motors?
Nope, they're 55.8. They're number 6 on the list. Huh?
I said, ouch. 69%. Wait, so we already said Tesla's
100%.
100. Ford. It went Tesla, Ford, then Stellantis, right?
No, Tesla, Stellantis, Ford.
Oh, Tesla, Stellantis, Ford. And then now we're at the 69%?
69%, and the number 4.
Is that Rivian? Are they on there already?
No, they. I don't think they make enough cars to count.
Ah, okay.
It would be Honda.
Oh, Honda. Duh. Yeah.
Acura and Honda, 69.4. And how about 50%, 56%? They just nudge out GM.
Toyota.
No.
I'm trying to think. Hang on. What other car companies?
This one's a tough one. This one's a real tough one. Goshen.
What?
I gave you a hint. Goshen.
Yeah, like Goshen, Indiana?
No, like the name. Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi Alliance.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
56%. General Motors. Of course, they only sell like 8 cars, so the only got to do is build 5 of them here. General Motors. Subaru comes in at 54.7. BMW, which is the BMW Mini and Rolls-Royce, 52.8%. And that's because they build all their SUVs in South Carolina, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Toyota is next at 47.5%, Lexus and Toyota. So, and I did look up, so I had it in front of me. The reason BMW builds their SUVs here, Nissan builds their pickup trucks in Indiana, Toyota builds their pickup trucks in Texas, is the chicken tax. And the chicken tax goes back to 1964. This is why Volkswagen doesn't have a pickup truck here. You know, they make this wonderful, pickup truck sold everywhere else in the world, but it's not sold here. This is why when Ford builds Transit Connects, every single one of them comes over with seats in the back. And then those are removed and sent, the seats are removed and then sent back. So they have cargo vans. It's the same reason mattresses are done the same way. I believe mattresses come flat packed. One of them comes flat packed and they just actually finish the assembly here. But if your vehicle is not assembled in the United States, there's a 25% tariff on it. So it would automatically raise the price of your vehicle 25%. And it's the original order slapped a 25% tariff on potato starch, dextrin, and brandy, as well as light trucks. So, and
all because of the chickens.
That was an executive order by President Lyndon Johnson in retaliation for European tariffs on American chicken imports.
See, I told you,
because
they
put a tax on our chickens going to Europe. The chicken tax, the 25% tax was put on. However, the chicken taxes went away on our chickens, but we still leave the chicken tax in place on the vehicles and brandy and such.
Well, yeah, we hold a grudge, man.
Well, you do know the government gets a bill every year from England for the tea that was destroyed and lost at the Boston Tea Party. And we ignore paying it.
Exactly. What is the compounding interest on that, I wonder?
God only knows what that bill is. I wonder. I'm seeing if this will come up since we don't want that dead air out there.
What's coming up? What?
I'm trying to find out if there's I can figure out what that bill actually is.
Oh, gotcha. Jason, you bring up kind of a similar point with the Lotus cars, but not quite the chicken tax thing. Lotus with the Caterham situation and the Lotus 7 and Super 7 was actually just that the English government decided to implement tax on kit-built vehicles as well, which they hadn't been doing. And so Colin Chapman got smart, and rather than selling them as a kit that had an assembly manual, which was part of the new tax law, that they would come with an assembly manual, he sold the cars with a disassembly manual. And you basically just had to read the book backwards to put your car together.
Actually, that is an incorrect thing. What happened is Lotus at the time published a magazine called Lotus and Sports Car. And if anybody would like a good chunk of the collection, I have it for sale. In that magazine, they published an article on how to disassemble your Lotus 7. Lotus didn't officially ever supply a manual either way with their Lotus 7s.
That's interesting. That's not what a couple of the books say. We'll have that discussion, John.
Well, keep in mind, the magazine was published by Lotus.
So maybe it's a semantics thing. Okay.
And pay attention. Have you ever seen the disassembly manual from Lotus?
I've never looked for one.
I've never been able to find one.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's put it this way. They published the way to disassemble the cars. Is that a better way of phrasing it?
Yes.
Okay. And that's how they got around that. And then eventually, Caterham figured out that, if they were to be able to buy the rights to the 7 and keep it in production after Colin decided to end production of it, they would survive. So that's how we wound up with Caterham. And yes, John, I'm paraphrasing a lot of this and making it short, but
yes, Randy, that is why the Hilux is not allowed in the Hilux, I believe, gets here through Mexico and some sort of importing regulations, but it's not technically imported by Toyota to the U.S., if I understand that right. I have to look into the tire plant thing. And yeah, Jason, Colin Chapman was a I want to get Clive on the show, so I really don't want to say it, but Colin
clever.
Chapman was
Clever.
Kind of a con man. He was very. I don't even say that. Colin Chapman was a genius in that he totally believed, and I live by kind of the same practice. The rules tell you what you can't do. They don't tell you what you can do. Mm-hmm. And that's what he always looked for. He looked for that loophole in the rules where they said, you can't do this, but you can. It doesn't say this is what I can do because it says I can't do this. Coming to a culmination with the Lotus 80 and its twin chassis design, which the FIA approved right up to the final the first Formula One race of the 1980 season. And I think that's when Chapman lost interest in cars, when they banned his brilliant design that he spent millions of dollars coming up with. And then they changed the rules to prevent him from running it.
Well, that's that's kind of the general practice especially in racing. And that's where Colin found his passion, is that, the rule book's simply there to tell you what you can't do, not what you can do. It's always about finding the loopholes and the ways to, make your car the better car without, most of them without breaking the rules.
So we've covered the chicken tax. We've covered defined. It's kind of fascinating to me what makes an American car, and how things actually break down.
How things break down. Is that a pun, John?
Most American-made sedans. After Tesla, the Chevrolet Malibu was the next, and it's number 6 on the list. So spots 3 through 5 are Japanese or Korean. TLX, Kia K5, and the Honda Accord. Which really gets me, the K5 is, I guess this isn't sales, because the K5 is basically the Stinger with a slightly different line. And the Stinger was had horrible sales, partially because it's one of the most expensive cars to insure. Most American-made sports cars. There's 3 cars on this list.
The most American-made sports car?
Huh?
Did you say the most American-made sports car?
Sports cars, but there's
sports cars, right? 3. Well, the Chevrolet Corvette.
Yeah, that's the only sports car we make in this country.
Yeah. And then let's see. Does one of the Alphas fall on there, seeing they were so high on the list?
Nope.
Ah, dang.
It's kind of simple.
Right.
You're overthinking it.
Probably.
And if you're going to do this and classify these as sports cars, then there should easily be 4 on this list.
Oh, God.
Chevrolet Corvette, Ford Mustang, Chevrolet Camaro.
Those aren't sports cars.
Exactly. The Challenger's not on this list. And if you're going to put a Mustang in a Camaro, why isn't the Challenger? And I believe the Challenger's American-made.
It's clearly...
They don't make the Viper anymore, Jason,
They don't make the Viper anymore. But it would have been on the list.
Yeah. It probably would have been tied with the Corvette for percentage made in America.
I would think. Pretty close. What's Corvette? Corvette's running in the, high 60% of parts now? Do you have that in front of you or not?
No, I don't. I can probably see.
Look it up. I want to say the last time it's actually up to 72%.
Yeah, 72%.
I think the last time I remember looking it up and thinking about it, it was at like 68. So it's bumped up.
In 2014, the Viper was named number 10 on the most American cars list, meaning 75% or more of its parts were manufactured in the U.S.
Boom. Tony talks a lot about the Vipers on that episode.
Well, Tony has his toys. And unbelievably, his numbers are pretty accurate on the Viper market there.
So do you think
I don't know what from what I understand, Randy, from some of the people I've heard and talked to, R34s are coming over. So he's saying that even though it just became 25 years old, they still aren't allowed in the U.S.
I can't imagine that they wouldn't still be allowed in the U.S. I mean, once they're at 25 years old, I don't know of anything that would keep them out of the country.
Now, I'll check with one of my friends that's deep into Nissans and find out about that. Arthur, because I was just conversation about Lotus Elises now that the S1 Elise is available to import.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people years ago on Lotus Talk that were buying them and storing them until they became of age. So there's a ton of these Series 1 Elises going to hit the shore or start hitting the shores, because the 96s became eligible last year. So, and those are the fun Elises. And if you want to talk about a small car,
yeah, we have an Elise at the in the collection at the Lane, and that is a sports car. I mean, it's Lotus, right? So it follows kind of Colin's belief in as lightweight and simple as possible. But man, I'll tell you, that is a stripped down car. I am amazed at that car and how basic and bare bones it really is when it comes down to it. But great styling and fast. It's a pretty impressive car.
But then walk across the museum and take a look at your Lotus 7. It's kind of very similar.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it follows the Colin Chapman, belief, and it is amazing the cars that company built and still builds to this day. I mean, they're incredible.
Now, if you see a new Amira, they've done what I accused the Viper of doing. The Viper in Gen 1 and Gen 2 are the cars to have, in my opinion. By Gen 3, they started to become Corvettes. And the Lotus Amira is the same thing. And you can almost say the Lotus Evora, they start more and more creature comforts and more creature comforts. And it's not the way Lotus was, and we'll never see Lotus the way Lotus was. They've got to make money. So, yeah. Now,
and
Randy,
really, I mean, you look at
that they are busting or cracking down on a lot of Skylines that were imported prior to the 25-year rule, or prior to them becoming 25 years old, and people getting fined if not having the cars impounded and crushed. I don't know if your friend falls into that. And if you don't follow every piece of paper, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, you can get in trouble too for still importing something 25 years or older. It's not really, you can fly over, buy something, say in Italy, that's 28 years old and put it on the boat as carry-on luggage or something and bring it back with you and drive it.
Right. There's
There are a lot of rules you've got to jump through, and I've read a lot of Skyline R34s and R35s are in violation of a lot of the import rules. As a matter of fact, we were supposed to have a guest a year or two ago on the show that got out of the business because of the way they were beginning to really crack down on this 25-year-old stuff. He got into crypto and still been very successful at it. Most recently moved to Puerto Rico to avoid income tax. So I don't think we'll be having him on the show, but he was a importer for years, and in talking to him and knowing him, a lot of Skylines came over incorrectly. So I don't know if that's your friends. I don't know story. I don't know the details. I've never imported a car 25 years or older. I doubt if I ever do. I'll wait for somebody else to bring it, and then when they go to sell it is when I would pick it up. I did want to say, Derek, I did read the Haggerty article that included Jeff and the Lotus 7 and the Caterham Series 3, which is what I used to own. And I can't remember what the third car was, as they did some sort of drive. Was it in Nashville or something? But there was a Haggerty article where, Jeff
just
was
outside of outside of they went just outside of Nashville.
So, yeah, that I hate articles like that because I really at times wish I still had my Caterham. There's other times I'm really glad I don't. But
yeah, they had the oh God, what two did you already say?
The Caterham Series 3 and the Lotus 7.
Yes, and they took the Elise.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and it was a newer Caterham though. It was a Caterham and a Caterham, wasn't it?
Actually, I'm looking at the pictures now. Yeah, it was the
Elise, your Elise, your Caterham Series 3. No.
Yeah, and I think that's somebody else's.
Yeah, and that was a Lotus 7 that was built by somebody for their father, or their father built right after his wife passed away.
Yes. So the lane cars were just the our Caterham 7 and our Elise. Yeah.
And your Caterham's in blue fiberglass?
Blue, yeah, the fiberglass is blue and then polished aluminum.
Yeah, that's what I had, polished aluminum, and then I had a set of green and a set of blue fiberglass for my car. I lean towards blue. I think when I finally sold it, it was still wearing the blue fiberglass, but I'd switch it every now and then. Hey, Dana, what's up?
Not much. No.
I was going to say I did a little bit of working on the backside of the website last week, and we change our pitch here a little bit, that if you're finding any value in this show, and if this podcast is even entertaining to you, if you would like to make a donation or you'd like to give back, I do have links up now for Patreon and buy me a coffee. I had a couple of people say they'd just rather give us money every month than not have to worry about buying us a cup of coffee every now and then. So those links should be up and active. There's a couple different tiers on the Patreon, not a lot of money. There's some give backs there that you don't get with the coffee side. So check it out on nodrivinggloves.com. And am I supposed to bitch about something?
Yeah, I think it's your turn to complain, John.
Yeah, what was I going to bitch about?
Dead air on podcasts.
Huh?
Dead air on podcasts.
Well, that's really not a driving thing, unless, of course, you're listening to your podcast while driving.
I thought we agreed a couple episodes ago that the bitch didn't have to be about automotive.
I was driving out to the lake house Saturday evening.
Wait, you have a lake house now?
Yes, and
that must be nice.
And it was Saturday was gorgeous here. I was going out Saturday afternoon before the Alabama game, go out, meet Brandy, and watch the game there. So I had the sunroof open on the Mini, the windows down, cruise control set at the speed limit. Well, speed limit's 55. I got it set at 57 because I know there's a 2 mile an hour error on my car, or cushion. 65, I set it at 67. So I'm buzzing along like that. And I mean, I set it at 67, and then when we come to a 55, I push the button 5 times, and that drops at 2 miles an hour each time, right to 57. Come back to 65, 5 times up, back to 67. Slow down, make my turn, get on this side road that takes you kind of where the way to the dam and stuff is. And goes through 2 small towns, heavily patrolled, and a lot of police presence. You know, they're kind of speed trap towns. Speed limits are 45 and 35. I set the cruise 45 on the nose. Buzz along, get to 35, same thing. 5 clicks of the switch, back to 35. 5 clicks of the switch, back up to 45. And when it goes back up to 45, I'm only on the road for about another 3/4 of a mile or so. And I come to where I got to make a right turn. And the whole time I've been on this road, I've been tailgated by a guy in his F-150 pulling a trailer. And I turn my turn signal on, because he's tailgating me. I don't want to just all of a sudden slow down in front of him. And then I begin to brake a few seconds later, and I start to make my turn. And this guy then decides he's going to pass me half in my lane, half in the oncoming lane with oncoming traffic, and honk. And I have to say, it took all my willpower not to decide to not turn and decide to go straight, and let him figure out how to solve the accident issue. So it's the speed limit, dude. Excuse me, and I'm going to say a naughty, naughty word, but fuck you. I'm following the speed limit. Live with it. And I did everything to the letter of the law. If I wouldn't have signaled, if I would have slammed on the brakes to make my turn, you're justified. But that pisses me off. I guess it pisses me off overall because, and I'll say it here, I drive a lot every month. I get paid by the hour. So it doesn't make me any money to drive faster than the speed limit. So I honestly try to drive 70, 72 on the interstate. That's damn near impossible at times.
Mm-hmm.
I try to drive 55 when I'm on 2-lane back roads going small town to small town. That's damn near impossible at times. It irritates people, but I feel I'm okay. So next week, Derek will probably bitch about these people that cling to the speed limit religiously.
Exactly. That's my plan.
But
they're you know what, John? People that hold the speed limit, they're un-American. They're un-American.
Well, that's why I drive a Mini. It's German.
There you go.
Built in England.
I was going to say, is it German or is it English? Which is it?
Well, it's owned by
Where
a
is it
German
from?
company and built in England.
That is the question tonight. Where is the car built? What nationality is the car?
I'm not sure who Randy's agreeing with.
I'm not sure either. It's a safe way to go, though. You just say you agree because, then you don't have to.
For some reason, you're still really, really quiet to me.
Oh, am I quiet again?
Yeah.
Is this any better?
Back from your microphone.
If I just eat the microphone, is that better?
That's how it's supposed to be done.
Oh, okay. Well, some weeks if I try to eat the microphone, it's too loud and you complain. Other weeks I don't eat the microphone and it's too quiet and you complain.
Randy was agreeing with you, Derek. It's non-American to hold the speed limit.
Oh, Jason. It's Bavarian. So true. So true. Bavarian cream. That's the best freaking donut in the world. Anyway.
Well,
Go get in your Bavarian car and drive the speed limit, John.
well, I think we got to just about everything on the old list, other than the news briefs, but I don't think I could find anything we want to do in 2 minutes.
Wait, Jason just said that listening to Derek with no picture is like talking to Suri. So I sound like a computerized female voice. That's awesome.
You're definitely just as attractive as Siri when you have no picture.
You know it. And plus, Siri is just a cover name for the CIA. So,
yeah, it's like the old meme popped up in my memories today. You know, I bet it back in the 60s. Got to be careful what I say on the phone. Government might be listening. And now we go, I got it sitting right next to me. You know, hey, listening device, what time is it? Got them all over the house now. I can't do anything in private, except I have the cameras turned off on the units in the bathrooms.
Well, that's no fun.
Well,
live a little, John.
Well, I already probably impressed the neighbors too much.
It's not that you have the cameras off. They just all broke the first time you went in there.
They didn't have a wide angle enough lens, right?
Exactly.
Talking about my tummy. But
all right, the show's devolving. We can go to bed now.
The show started devolving about 9:06. So
exactly.
Well, like I said in the description, we weren't going to solve this problem. You decide what an American car is. I think there's a big thing to decide on that one. We know what the chicken tax is now. We've got some things to research. We decide maybe I should speed every now and then. I carry this episode with me in my pocket and show the cop. Otherwise, I'm out of here.
I'm going to do the same.
Carry a copy of the episode in your pocket?
No, I'm going to get out of here.
Later, everybody.